Hey everybody, and welcome to Bright Founders Talk at Tami. Tami is an international software development company that designs, builds, and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. Welcome to our podcast where we bring you the most inspiring stories of entrepreneurs and experts in the software development industry. Each week, we interview successful leaders who share their unique journeys and valuable insights. Today, we have an amazing guest joining us, Kate Bolton, who is content marketing and communication expert. And beyond that, she is founder of Comms for Good. Good morning, Kate. How are you doing?
I'm really well, thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
That's great that you made time to join us today. And before we dive into the details of your professional journey, I thought it would be fun to discover a bit about your personal side. You are not just an expert in communication and marketing, but you are also a fascinating individual with unique experiences. So let's take a moment to get to know you beyond your professional accomplishments. So my first question, if you could instantly become an expert in any field outside of your own, marketing and communication, which field would you choose and why?
I love history, actually. So I'd love to be some kind of archaeologist or expert in fine art or something, so you could learn about people's stories from the past. That's, I think, what I would choose.
Wow. It's the fact that you can't find on LinkedIn, let's say. Interesting. The next one. What's your favorite quote or, let's say, mantra that keeps you motivated on your entrepreneurial journey? What the most memorable piece of advice you've ever received and how it influenced your approach to entrepreneurship?
I guess it was to start with the sort of piece of advice I tell myself every day, and I even have it on a little post-it note in my kitchen on the wall, is really simple. It's remember who you are. And I use that as a kind of reminder of every time I'm feeling a bit nervous about something or unsure, I just think, look at how much you've achieved. Look how courageous you are, and you can do this. And it's just that encapsulates that really well for me. So that's kind of, I think that's my frame for life.
Nice.
Otherwise, I guess the piece of advice that I received, I work with a brilliant entrepreneur. I work with him still now and then on different projects, but I met him in 2007, a guy called Tommy Lube, and he taught me to really be clear on who you are, how you like to work, and what your purpose is, and to articulate that upfront and show people how you like to work, and then follow that rather than being pulled around by other people's desires and wills and structures and frameworks. And I always kept that to heart because I was quite young and new at the time, the sort of startup world. And he said, if you operate best at 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., work that way. And if you rather would work first thing in the morning and then take the afternoon off to go and play golf or go to the cinema, do that. Just be clear about it. And we will all recognize that you're working at your best, and we will, reap the benefits of that. And that was way before, hybrid working and much more sort of talk about flexibility now. This is sort of 15 or more years ago. And I've always kept that just close and been inspired by that. So I would say that would be a great piece of advice for anyone to follow.
Yeah, actually for anyone, because I believe that in our century, we are constantly questioning ourselves what I'm doing wrong, because someone is, you feel that someone is more successful rather than you. But it's really important to remember that you need to not to forget who you are actually, and like have your own path, and that's all.
Yeah.
Okay, it was nice to meet you and to know more about your personality. And coming back to business, imagine you are taking us back to the very, very moment when the idea of your company, Comms for Good, struck you. What was happening, and what was the aha moment that made you say, this is it, this is what I need to do to make the difference? And actually, maybe it was planned over the years, during the years?
It wasn't. It was really an aha moment. You nailed it, really. It was, I think the year was 2016, and I was working at the time in a big banking tech company, and I was global head of comms. And my role at that company was to use content and social media to help the company build connections with other businesses. So they wanted to sort of host events, collaborate for different technology projects, all to serve the bank customer. And they weren't quite sure how to do it. It was in the early days of people using social media and content. It was really important to them that they kind of cut through all the noise and met new clients that way. And I was trying to work out how to do it. At the same time, outside of the office, although, I'm a strong believer that you are the same person in the office as you are outside of the office. I was recovering from cancer, and I had had treatment several months before, and I was back at work and all fine. But the way that I was going through the healing process from that, I realized that actually writing stories and creating blogs and sharing them with cancer charities was a great way for me to heal, because I was actually sharing my story with others who could learn from that. And I found that was really great. And I realized that same experience was exactly the same at work. I was using content and stories and social media to try and reach out and make connections with people for a work purpose. And I was doing the same for a personal, very kind of meaningful purpose. And I realized that everybody in the office or in any company around the world has got something going on in their personal life that may be having an impact on them while they're working. And I realized that actually the answers to both of those two separate kind of issues that I was trying to solve was the same. It's about building communities, and it's about building communities and relationships that are quite meaningful, that make you feel kind of seen and heard and understood in a powerful way. So I thought, I wonder if there's a way to bring the two things together. And that's how Comms for Good came about, because I was working in comms and realized that comms for personal and comms for work could be for good and build these relationships. So that was the start. It was about authenticity, I guess. The first idea that I had was that we were trying to host an event, and these companies have budget to do like marketing roundtables and bring organizations together, or webinars, or even big events, and they put lots and lots of money into those things. And at the same time, the cancer charity that I had built a really strong relationship with was hosting an event, and it was a fundraiser, a quiz where you could buy a table and invite people, and the money went to the charity, and you learned about what their cause was. So I thought, well, why not, instead of hosting a corporate roundtable and inviting clients and potential contacts and partners to that, why not buy a table at the charity event with the same money and invite all the same people to that instead? Because we'll build a great relationship with those people. They'll have an amazing story to tell, and all the money that we've spent will go to a brilliant charity.
Yes.
And so I spoke to my boss, the chief of marketing at the time, and he thought it was a brilliant idea. And I said, it's great because we're building the relationships, but it's great communications. And what if, when we do this, we put the idea online and we say we've got free tickets for anyone that wants to come, that's in our sector, that wants to be part of this. And even the act of inviting people became a marketing campaign. So it solved a business problem and it did something for good. And that was the point. That's where it all started. I can be very passionate about that, but that was the moment.
Yes, and I see that again coming back to those mantra and to those quote, which is driving you. You are just following your own path and mixing some kind of your personal experience with courageous fighting with cancer and your professional life, and it works for good. And actually, the secret in naming, we know nowadays now what is the secret in naming. comes for good, communication for good. We often hear about the bottom line in business, but it comes for good puts generosity at the heart of doing business. It's your aim. How do you convince Skeptic that incorporating CSR into a company's communication strategy is not just a feel like a good gesture, but actually a smart business move?
I guess my short answer is don't even bother trying to convince the skeptics, because there's always going to be skeptics. Just work with the people who get it. But having said that, because it was an idea where we were spending money on some that we were already going to spend. So we were already going to spend potentially a lot more money than we spent on this particular idea. So it's not costing anymore, and you look good. It's kind of a really simple answer, and it helps. There's still going to be skeptical, because some people just find, oh, that's just a bit uncomfortable. It's bringing your personal stories into business, and that's wrong. And, but there's always people that are going to be like that. And, there's that saying, you do you. That's fine. But there are other people out there who totally get it and actually feel inspired by it. And those are the people that are going to want to do business with you anyway, because it's all about personal connection. You do business with people that you get a feeling that they understand on a more sort of subconscious level. So for me, let the skeptics do their thing. That's absolutely fine. But there will be as many people out there who totally understand. And interestingly, the same boss who totally understood what I was doing then left, and his replacement totally didn't get it. In the same company where there was already some examples of how it could work. So that's life.
And so Comes for Good is a non-profit organization, as you mentioned already this fact. Can you share some insights into how Comes for Good has navigating the unique challenges of running a non-profit while striving to make a positive impact in the community? Because I believe as a non-profit organization, you are facing a lot of challenges.
Yeah, I mean, it's my sort of setup is unique in that I'm a sole trader, basically. So I'm a marketing consultant. So I do certain work, which is pure marketing for companies. And where I can, I'll embed a CSR or charity kind of vision into that. But the specific kind of pure Comms for Good initiatives happen as and when I can do them, when I've got time, when I've got energy, because it takes a lot of emotional energy for me to actually achieve some of these things. So I just tell myself, every little bit that you can do, every small pebble that you drop into the water creates a ripple. And don't get too hung up on how many or how often or how much, because nobody else is measuring how much impact you have. It's all down to whatever you could achieve. And so it's about sort of keeping the balance right, I guess. So the navigating the purpose-driven part versus, the day job or the sort of regular stuff is sometimes a bit of a juggle, but I just, I do what I can when I can. I guess that's how I would explain it.
Okay, so we already also mentioned that regarding the networking and its importance in like both professional and personal life. What is your secret sauce, let's say, for building genuine, long-lasting business relationships that are rooted in purpose and community? Maybe any tips for first-time entrepreneurs?
I think generally it's more just a principle. It's about you get what you put in. So, sort of generosity begets generosity. So if you are generous to others, they'll be generous back to you. And if you use that as a guiding principle, when you're trying to build relationships for, sales or for marketing or whatever your role is, even just inspiring a team, even the way that you approach that in a positive way will then, you sort of lead by example. And I think that's the answer, is that whatever you want to achieve, you deliver first, and then you'll get the results that you're looking for, I think. I think that's the starting point. I think it's the way that you attract the best clients because they understand what you're trying to achieve and you're on the same page. And those are always going to be the sorts of organizations that will want to work with you. So that's the way I would sort of look at everything that you do I guess it's basically going back to living by your values again, and working by your values. Don't leave your values at home when you come to the office.
And how to stay actually motivated, because we know that life is life, and this formula generosity, if you get the generosity, so you will also take the generosity. Sometimes this formula doesn't work. And how to stay motivated during such times, and you don't get back.
It's definitely a lesson for life rather than just a lesson for work, isn't it? Because I think if you look at yourself and say, well, have I done my best? Have I done exactly what I would wish I would do? Am I aligned with my purpose still? Mm-hmm. And then you just have to say, you've done well. If something's gone wrong, have a look, make an assessment to see if there's anything you could do differently next time. But then just get over it, move on, look forward, try again. It doesn't mean that you're wrong. It just means that particular scenario doesn't work out. And that's the same in relationships, isn't it? Whether it's a potential client or a big tech project, if it doesn't go well, obviously look inside yourself to see what could have, been done better. Don't beat yourself up. Just keep going.
Yeah, and I believe that also great advice, be optimistic during those tough times. Collaboration is a central theme for Comms for Good. How can entrepreneurs encourage collaboration and shared purpose among their team members, stakeholders, and partners to drive positive change?
You see, for me, I think entrepreneurs and startups just generally have the edge here. I think that it's easier for them because they're smaller, generally, usually quite small. Big organizations that have been operating for, decades and have thousands of people, to reach everybody and inspire them to do something or to make a difference in some kind of way. It's much harder because you could have one person over here with a really great vision, but somebody over there that's undoing it. Or it's just really hard to break free of how they've always operated. Whereas small companies, it's usually a handful of people. You can get them in a room and talk to them all together and give everybody permission to be authentic, to come up with ideas based on their life experience and see how they can work in a business setting, and allow people to try them out and be forgiving if they don't work out, because if you allow people to try something out and then you say, right, never again, then that's really not a good attitude. And that's again, it's an analogy for life, but it's true in technology, isn't it? When you're trying out a product idea or developing some kind of piece of technology that's to solve a problem, some of the ideas won't work, but you're not going to fire someone for trying, because you want that. I think entrepreneurs do have the edge and startups do have the edge because they've got a group of people and they can communicate directly with them more easily. They also don't have big organizations and teams that do separate things. It's usually everybody's got their sleeves rolled up and they're all do a bit to help each other. So it's easy to see, you're doing that over in that team. Well, actually, that could really help the thing I'm doing. And could I steal that idea and work with you on that? So you're already collaborating as an organization. And then you're a lot more nimble and able to kind of then reach out to other organizations who will be much more adaptable to work with you. And also, I think when you're small, you need to collaborate because you don't have all of the knowledge in-house. So it's much more of a natural thing to say, hey, you other company over there, would you work with me on this thing because your skill set matches ours and we could do something brilliant together. So even just the way you exist is much more around collaboration. So then that's really powerful because it's natural, it comes naturally. Then if you look at it and think, right, if you're collaborating anyway, and we've got a team of people who are really engaged and we can communicate with directly and inspire them, you can say, right, we have this thing to do for our client, but we also have a responsibility to the world, to society, to support them too. As we grow, we want everyone to grow, even the people that have less than us. So what ideas can we bring into our work that could help the community, but also expand our business? And when you give people that sort of opportunity to be that creative, it's quite inspiring to them. So that then, you have the crazy ideas. When people are under stress, like I was under stress when I came up with the Cops for Good idea, it wasn't because I just thought, let's just do something crazy. It was because I had to heal, because I was suffering, and bringing that sort of personal desperation almost into, and channeling it into something that could create an idea is actually powerful. So it's giving people permission to do the same, I guess. Sorry, I'm talking a lot.
No, it's actually really important nowadays to, as you said, collaboration is really powerful, and everyone need to think about how to build it in more understandable, in more correct way in your company, and to bring it in your company culture, because actually we have such, let's say, factor in our corporate culture. You need to be collaborative because sometimes you have no answers, and even internet is not the best source to have this, to find these answers. And you just can to your colleague and ask, and he will be a great source to help. And so, yes, it's really, really, really important. Also, the question which I want to ask you is more about your marketing experience. Let's leave aside Comes for Good for a little bit. And so nowadays, it's really important to be different, to have these, to make a difference in your industry, in your field. How can entrepreneurs ensure their vision and purpose truly stand out? And actually, is it really important?
I don't think it doesn't need to stand out in an obvious way, like it's written on the top of your website, because then it's just a label. I think the way it stands out is in the way you behave and the activities that you do, and that shines through. But in terms of, from a marketing point of view, how do you bring it to life? I think I'm doing a thing at the moment where I've got this idea. There's a lot of people talk about account-based marketing at the moment, don't they? Because they've got potential target clients that they want to reach. And account-based marketing for them is like targeted emails going, I noticed that you play football. Here, I love football too. Now, please buy my product. Or whatever. It's very kind of automated. It's taking normal marketing and trying to make it sound personal. But I think there's an opportunity in things like account-based marketing to bring in this sort of idea of collaboration and building relationships through working on something in the community where that business operates. And one of the ideas I've got at the moment, because I'm working with an African school, which is a brilliant school that's bringing girls from across Africa to learn STEM subjects, so math, science, physics, is to say, well, wonder what companies are trying to do business in Africa right now, and which, how would that sort of collection of organizations work together in a particular city or country or continent, and what is the need of that community beyond the product that they're serving or selling? So, whatever tech it is that they're bringing in, mobile phones or whatever, and see whether there's something that they could do with their people on the ground in that area as an initiative to build relationships. So, for example, in the school, is there a way for the tech company, the service provider, and the, I don't know who else, a marketing company, a PR company, or a law firm that's based there, that would naturally all work together in the same ecosystem? Could they all work together to support a school or a food kitchen or whatever the thing is, and build relationships whilst doing so, make a marketing campaign out of the fact that they're doing it and sharing the stories, because storytelling is a really beautiful way of telling people what you care about and how you're having an impact. But show that those organizations are already working together on something good, even if they haven't signed a partnership deal or a client deal or whatever, because you get to know each other. And then at some point, it becomes a much more natural decision to make when you decide whether you want to do business with someone. So that's a version of account-based marketing that I think could potentially work. And I'm just trying to work out who I'm going to pitch it to try and get to work something like that with. That sort of is a comms for good ethos thing, but it's helping people do business and it's helping the community. So and it makes you stand out because you're telling stories that people aren't telling.
Yes.
So that's the way to stand out with purpose.
It's really important. And so can you say that these, let's say, corporate social responsibility, is it a key factor for the success of business in the next 10 years?
Yes, it is. However, at the moment, most of the time, CSR, especially for bigger companies, not so much startups, most of the time now, CSR is a whole department in a section of a company, and it operates on its own. It has its own targets, its own boxes to tick, its own reporting standards that it has to follow. Meanwhile, the rest of the business is going on and doing their business. And generally, it's also something that is done within the current organization, almost as a way to show how good they are. So it's almost about the priority seems a lot of the time to be about showing off for an annual report more than it is about generally having that sense of responsibility for a community. I say that, I mean, that's not always going to be true, but there's a feeling that the priorities within an organization is to show that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. But so yes, it is a really important thing for organizations to do, but I think it's just needs to be brought into the whole business and it needs to be embedded. And I think my ideas are small ideas and they'll make a small difference, but if everybody was thinking in that way, from all the different aspects that they're working in, to find a way to embed social impact, community support, charity support into everything that they're doing always, and start with that, then that's much more powerful because it's kind of number one priority on the list rather than, am I going to make my targets this year or whatever. So that's when I think you can really make a difference. And that's what I would love to see, is to kind of make businesses run from a position of CSR first.
I believe that it's a good, it's a food for thought for a lot of business owners, this topic regarding CSR. And so, Kate, I have only the last question for you. During our conversation, you mentioned a lot of advice, tips and tricks for our audience, for first-time entrepreneurs and just experts in software development sphere. And so imagine you are standing in front of a room full of eager entrepreneurs, each hungry for guidance and inspiration. What would be your rallying call to them?
Remember who you are. I ultimately live by your values as an individual and let them shine within the organization, because if you're shining, your organization shines. So if your values are around generosity, be generous. If your values around education, find a way to educate people in everything that you do. Or if your values are around inspiring people, then make sure that the way you operate with everybody is inspiring. And then you will shine. Remember who you are.
Hey, thank you, Kate. Yes, it's really important to remember who you are, be optimistic, and just believe in yourself and build your own path. Thank you, Kate, for this inspiring conversation and for sharing the story of Comms for Good and your personal story. It was a pleasure to talk to you and meet you today.
Oh, thank you very much. I've enjoyed it very much. Thank you for inviting me.